currency reset and stock market crash could be triggered by Wall Street bets, GameStop, and silver. Hi folks, welcome to the Financial Argument. We're experiencing a historic moment with developments that will not only become a part of economic history, but written in history textbooks and taught in schools. Every development is worth following. Of course, I'm talking about GameStop, WallStreetBets, and the silver squeeze. I'm sure by now you know what's going on. If you're unaware of what's been happening with GameStop, you can watch my previous video by clicking the link I left in the description section to get up to date. What I'm going to tell you in today's video is there's more to the picture than what you've heard in the relationship between WallStreetBets, GameStop, and the hedge funds. I studied the subject in great depth and saw surprising links between different people and institutions. More importantly, I see all of this as the beginning of great changes that'll take place. What I'm referring to is a stock market crash or a global currency reset that was intentionally triggered. I'll try to explain it step by step, in simple terms. Going back a year or so, there was a Reddit user who said GameStop, GME, was actually extremely short. He said there was potential for big profit there. In his post, he addressed Burry, referring to none other than Michael Burry, whose story is told in the well-known movie The Big Short. Let me remind those who do not know why Michael Burry is an important name. Before the 2008 financial crisis, he analyzed the major problems in the real estate market and moved to a short position, which earned him and his investors millions of dollars. So what is GameStop's relationship with Michael Burry? In 2019, Michael Burry bought GameStop, GME stocks, predicting that GameStop could never recover the situation with the new generation of consoles appearing on the market, and that the situation was not as bad as it seemed. When we look at the form submitted to the SEC by Michael Burry's company Scion Asset Management, we see that 536,862 shares were purchased on February 14, 2019. And in the holdings report for Scion Asset Management, on the same date, the fund was valued at $103,528,000. When we look at the company's latest report on November 16, 2020, we see that the size of the fund increased to $330,268,000, and the number of GameStop shares increased from 536,862 to 1,703,400. Although there are various rumors, it's unlikely that we'll know how much Michael Burry earned from this business without the SEC reports being released. Also, Burry said in an interview last Tuesday that he's now neither long nor short. But it's worth mentioning that with the involvement of Michael Burry in GameStop, WallStreetBets Redditors united even more, and the media has placed more of a spotlight on the issue. Hedge funds, which took short positions on GameStop stocks that snowballed with the participation of Michael Burry, lost almost $70 billion. These are the latest figures as of last week. I think at this point, the damage is much greater. One name stands out among these hedge funds who are now losing big time. The owner of the .72 hedge fund is billionaire Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen does not actually have a direct short position on GameStop, but he is someone with an investment of over $1 billion in Melvin Capital, which is suffering huge losses. So as Melvin loses money, Cohen loses money as well. That's why .72 and Citadel put together $2.75 billion to prevent Melvin from sinking last week. We learned that Citadel has a deep relationship with Robinhood. Robinhood is the most used application by users when buying GameStop shares. It was telling customers that they made transactions without commission. But we learned that, unsurprisingly, like any free app, Robinhood sells customers' data to hedge funds. So who could be Robinhood's biggest customer? Bingo, it's Citadel. Now let's focus on the Citadel and their far-reaching relationships. Does any name come to mind when I say Miss Trillions? I'm talking about the United States Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. If you remember, she said, "I don't see a financial crisis occurring in our lifetimes." Citadel paid $800,000 to Janet Yellen, the most failed economist in history in my opinion, for speaking fees. I can just imagine her on the podium talking about how to print trillions of dollars to bail out zombie companies and more. It's also clear that Citadel was behind Robinhood's closing transactions for GME and AMC, which it appears they did to save Melvin. It's obvious that Citadel has many ties within the government, because the names with which it's associated are not limited to Mrs. Trillions Yellen. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? Thanks to the Fed, Citadel received $200 million of taxpayer dollars for the bailout. The person who organized these bailouts was then Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke. And Ben Bernanke is now working as a well-paid consultant at Citadel. With all these obvious relationships, it's no surprise Redditors became angry with Citadel, who they see as behind Robinhood bans. On the other hand, it's necessary to ask if someone else wants to take advantage of the anger of all these Reddit users. Here too comes another Cohen. This person is Ryan Cohen, founder of Chewy. He sold Chewy to PetSmart in April 2017 for $3.35 billion. 2 years later, Chewy went public with a value of $8.7 billion. Now the market cap of Chewy is $41.86 billion. It's at about 10 times the price Cohen sold it for. Perhaps feeling he was made a fool of by the hedge funds on the Chewy issue, Cohen set a new target. Interestingly, this time Ryan Cohen wanted to buy a new company in order to increase its value and not sell it this time, perhaps for revenge. So what company is this? GameStop, of course. Cohen disclosed his status as GameStop's largest investor with a 10% stake last September. In December, his stake increased to 12.9%. Could Cohen have done something to make users on WallStreetBets more active regarding GameStop? We can't prove this, but let's just say things seem to be working out well for him. He's now a billionaire thanks to WallStreetBets. Keep all this in mind. Now, let me try to answer a question I frequently get. Could there be greater forces than what we see behind all these historic events? Could the situation have been used to trigger something? Perhaps something like a stock market crash or currency reset. We've heard of the Rothschild family, Rockefeller family, Morgan family, Saud dynasty, Baruch family, Walton family, and so on. I don't want to get on the side of the conspiracy theorists, but could all these families have organized such a movement against Wall Street? Could they have lit the match to spark a revolution? We don't have any official evidence to say that these families have control over the whole world. When you look at the official numbers, we don't see all these families in the list of the richest families in the world. According to official figures, they appear to have surprisingly less significant fortunes, like $10 million each. There are various claims on this subject. For example, the Rothschild family manages $400 billion or $2 trillion according to some sources. Even if they do possess less wealth, their name is connected to many international organizations. Anyway, since I don't have clear evidence, I won't continue. It's up to you whether you decide to believe it or not. They may be behind everything, or it may have happened spontaneously on its own. But remember, if there is no weakness, no one can exploit it. This is what I've been talking about for years. The biggest weakness here is the weakness created by the 2008 financial crisis and the reality swept under the rug. This is the biggest trigger of what we see happening today and could result in a global currency reset or stock market crash. Huge injustices have been committed since the 2008 financial crisis. The biggest banks and hedge funds of the time took incredible risks and drove the housing market into a collapse. At the end of the day, those who paid the price for their mistakes were hardworking people who lost their jobs and homes. Only a few of the names who caused this major breakdown were punished. Some received ridiculously small jail sentences and fines. Most of the remaining companies saved themselves, almost as if they were being rewarded. After record unemployment in 2008, trillions of dollars were printed by the Fed. After a while, they told people that the economy was recovering and that lost unemployment was being compensated in the official figures published by the authorities. Let's take a person that had their own business and earned a good income, but became bankrupt as a result of the recession. If they find a minimum wage job, the graph will just include this in their recovery figures. There are millions of families like this in America. Are you aware of the drastic changes in the financial lives of these families? The nights they went without food? The problems their children experienced? Well, no matter who or whatever is behind it, these children are the soldiers of this digital awakening we are experiencing today. Children of parents whose families they drove into misery. This is why the corrupt economic system cannot continue any longer, and this awakening will bring massive movements, followed by a major stock market crash, which will be followed by the global currency reset. God bless you all.